Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another writing webinar. It's a new week, and we have some new classes for you. Today, we're going to be doing poetry. We're having a little bit of fun with our little studio here. Now we're doing green screen, which means I can look like I'm in a peaceful garden as we talk about poetry today. It felt appropriate. I hope you guys enjoy. Let's see who we have so far today. In the webinar so far, I see Anya, Ashi, Ethan, Isha, Logan, Mackenzie, Madeline, Maya, Milo, Nalia, Oliver, Olivia. I see more people coming in. So hi, everybody. I'm glad you're here. You may either already like poetry, or maybe you're taking the plunge today. Maybe it's something you've been interested in, but you've never tried out before. Today, we're going to be talking about what poetry is, a certain type of poetry called haiku. And by the end of the class, I'm going to have you all write some poetry at home. So I hope you're ready to create some as well. As always, if you need to ask any questions or you'd like to tell me something, you can type it in the Q&A box down at the bottom of the screen. I already see that several people have said hello. Hi there, everyone that's saying hi in the Q&A box. Compliments on the background. Thank you, Isha. Thank you, Ethan. Great. Great. I'm glad you guys love the wallpaper. We'll probably have some more fun with that. One person just joined and said that they're late. What is going on? You have missed nothing so far. We're just talking about the fact that we're going to be doing poetry today, specifically a type of poetry called haiku. And I said hi to everyone, and we've commented it on our amazing background that we have today. I believe in the webinar about dinosaurs, they had dinosaurs in the background today. So we're having some fun with that. All right, let's get started on poetry today. So, why write poetry? Before we talk about this specific type of poetry, I thought we could cover the subject of why write poetry at all. Poetry can be, to beginners, it can seem like a bit of a interesting or weird or, what is going on with that style of writing? When you first look at poetry, it can feel like there aren't a lot of rules, or that there are rules to it that we don't understand because it's very different from other types of writing. In plain writing, or even in creative writing, there are lots of rules we follow to how we put the words down on paper. There's rules like you always have a capital letter at the start of the sentence, and you end the sentence with a period or a question mark or another punctuation mark. In poetry, we don't always do that. There are rules about the type of words that you have to have in a sentence for it to be a complete sentence. In our grammar classes, we've talked about some of the grammar of how sentences work in regular writing. In poetry, we do not follow the same rules. So the first thing to know about poetry is that it is a type of writing that's more about how you feel, and it's really about expressing things in a creative way. And there are different types of poetry that have been created over hundreds or even thousands of years. And there are often ideas about the right way to do a certain type of poetry. But one of the cool things about poetry is that, like we've talked about in some of our other seminars, there's really more suggestions than rules. There can be a sort of agreed upon way that you write a certain type of poetry, but at the same time, if you want to kind of break the rules and go your own way, that's okay too, because poetry is a form of communication. It's a form of artistic communication. And one of the things about art is you really get to often express it the way you want to. So we're going to go over some of the suggestions or some of the normal ways that this type of poetry is written. But you're quickly going to see that even within this type of poetry, there are different ideas about how to do it. And there are different like methods or rules that have evolved over time. And you really get to do whatever you want. So why would we want to write a poem in the first place? Here's a few reasons that I could think of. One, poetry is fun. It can be fun to write poems because They let you break the rules of writing a little bit, and they can just, they're very creative, they're artistic, they can make you feel happy to write a fun poem. A second reason is that writing poetry can improve your writing ability. Sometimes some types of poetry, they have like rules that you have to fit a certain number of words into a line or a certain type of words into a line. And doing that can help you improve your writing ability. Sometimes putting a barrier in your art can actually improve it. When you say you have to try to write it this way, it makes you kind of grow or expand or like work harder in your art to do your art that certain way. Maybe you would normally write a certain way, but when they say you have to write with this many words or this type of word, if I said your poem has to only start with the letter A, you would really have to stretch and kind of expand your abilities to try to find a way to communicate something using words that all started with the letter A. We're not doing that today, but you can imagine how doing something that had a bit of a barrier, a bit of a challenge to it, might make you a better writer. And a third reason that I could think of was that writing poetry can expand your vocabulary. There are books and websites there's one type of website or book called a thesaurus. It helps you find similar words to a word you already know. Let's say you wanted you were tired of using the word big in your writing. You could go to a thesaurus and it would tell you that large, gigantic, gargantuan, and other words are similar words to the word big. Well, writing poetry, sometimes trying to find just the right word, it can expand your vocabulary as you learn about new words and you go find the word that feels just right for what you're trying to say. So those are 3 reasons I could think of to write poetry. All right, we said in the description of this class, we're gonna write haiku. What is haiku? First of all, that word is singular and plural. That means we can talk about 1 haiku or 10 haiku, and you say the word the same way. The language that it comes from, Japanese, nouns or things like poems apparently don't have singular and plural. In English, I would say like 1 table or 3 tables. In Japanese, we say 1 haiku or 5 haiku, and you say the word the same way. So what is a haiku? Haiku is a type of poetry created in Japan hundreds of years ago. People have been writing haiku for a very long time, and there are some very famous examples of this type of poetry. Haiku are usually about the seasons or nature. They're a type of poetry that kind of has a focus, and that focus is usually the natural world around us outside. A lot of the classic haiku do not describe sitting at a table doing your work or doing kind of indoor things. Most of the haiku that you'll find take place outside, near like waterfalls or bodies of water, or out experiencing plants and animals and the natural world. They often beautifully describe a single moment in time. So a haiku would not attempt to describe years passing and what it's like, giant experiences. Haiku are about the experience of one, usually small thing that is happening. It's kind of a type of poetry that is encouraging you to take a deep breath and kind of experience what's happening right now. It can be kind of a peaceful type of poetry because either reading it or writing it encourages us to experience just this moment right here. I see already there's a lot of comments or questions in the Q&A box. So I'm going to take one moment. I'm going to see what some of those are. Some of our viewers are already putting poetry into the Q&A box, and I love it. Thank you, guys. Nalia says that they are learning about haiku in class right now. That's awesome. Good job. One person asks, did we pick this background because haiku are Japanese? Yes. We were just looking for sort of a peaceful kind of garden background to go with the theme of this type of poetry. And yes, haiku do come from Japan. Let's see. One person is asking if there's more reasons to write poetry than just those 3 that we went over. Yeah, there are a lot of reasons. Those are just 3 that I thought of. And those are 3 common reasons that teachers teach poetry, but there are many more. If you asked any artist or writer, what's a good reason for creating art or for writing things? I'm sure there's as many answers as there are artists and writers in the world. And one, thank you. One viewer says that they love these classes. Thank you very much. All right. So one more time. So haiku are usually about the seasons or nature. They often beautifully describe a single moment in time. Haiku don't try to describe everything in that moment. They suggest part of the scene and let you fill in the gaps yourself. One of the key things about haiku is that they are short. They only have a few words, and they're kind of they're describing that small moment in time by trying to say a lot in very few words. Sometimes, have you ever heard the saying "less is more"? Haiku is kind of all about less is more. When you write your own haiku, you will be trying to picture a scene or experience a scene in nature and try to find a way to talk about it, not saying everything you possibly could say and using all the words you can think of, but trying to find just a few words that can express it or tell about it, almost like what are the most important words. Again, some of those skills that writing poetry can help you increase, like just your writing ability in general. Well, one of those skills will be, what are the most important words I could use here? If I can only use a few words to express this, what are the most important ones? What could I cut out? Usually when we talk and when we write, well, I know at least when I talk, there can be a lot of and using extra words and sounds that we don't really need to communicate. But out of habit, we add those into our communication. Haiku also, it encourages you to just use the most key words that will really express the idea and to eliminate everything else. So focusing on suggesting part of the scene and letting the reader fill in the gaps. Here are some haiku, and some of these are famous ones that you'd find in any poetry book or haiku book. This is from a very famous Japanese poet from a few hundred years ago. Old pond, a frog jumps, the sound of water. So this poet is describing a very short, small moment in time by the side of a pond. The first part here, oh, and by the way, this is translated from Japanese. So I found a few different versions of this poem online, because translating anything from one language to another, you'd have a few different choices of how to say it. And this is how one translator or one writer translated this poem. But here we can see here, it's taking up just one moment. We're next to an old pond. The writer sees this frog jump into the water, and here's the sound of water. Here's a splash. So kind of like our background here next to a pond, you can imagine the writer sitting there, the poet sitting there and watching this very short scene. You might get some feelings from this if you could imagine yourself sitting there and experiencing this yourself. You could ask yourself questions like, why this moment? Why did the poet decide to describe this? Why is the sound of water important? Well, maybe the writer just wanted you to feel peaceful. Maybe they, using the words old pond, maybe that was important to them for some reason. But it's a small, really peaceful moment describing a pond and a frog jumping into it. Here's another one from that same poet. The first cold shower, And shower here means rain, not like a shower in your bathroom, but rainfall can also be described as a shower. The first cold shower, even the monkey seems to want a little coat of straw. And I think in this time period, straw was used to, like the plant, like kind of straw as part of grass. That could be used and turned into hats or even coats to keep the rain off. So the poet is saying, the first cold shower, even the monkey seems to want a little coat of straw. So this is a small moment in time. It's expressing something happening in the natural world. It has an animal, it has rainfall in it. It's just a little peaceful moment that the poet experienced and is describing to us. Here's a modern writer, Michael Dylan Welch. He is still alive today, I believe. And this poem won a prize in a haiku contest. Meteor shower, a gentle wave wets our sandals. So I think this is a great example of choosing your words carefully and only using a few. Meteor shower, well, what can we tell from this poem? We can tell it's probably nighttime because you can't see meteors during the day usually. A gentle wave, so we're on the beach. The person is standing near the water. They're standing in the sand. And this little wave comes in and gets the poet's sandals wet. And who else is with the poet? Well, it says our. So he's with at least one other person. And so, even though there's only a few words here, there's like a few clues that you can get from this to kind of see what the whole scene looks like. It looks like this person is maybe standing and watching this with another person, maybe a family member, maybe somebody special to them. But they're standing there at night on the beach, watching a meteor shower, through the sky. They're standing there while the waves come in and get their feet wet. It's just a really nice little peaceful scene. It's describing something happening in nature. I don't know what picture it gives you, but for me, it just makes me feel a little bit happy, a little bit peaceful. Makes me think of summer because usually you can't stand in the ocean in winter. So it can kind of make you get like different feelings without having to put a lot of words on paper. So I liked those ones a lot. I hope you guys like them too. All right, so yeah, some of you watching at home are already asking about something that I had the same thought, and I knew you guys might ask about it too. And that is that in America, haiku are usually broken into lines of 5, 7, and 5 syllables. So a syllable, really quickly, just to go over what that is. When we write words or say words, a syllable are the speech sounds that a word is broken into. So let's talk about a few different words and what the syllables in those words are. So let's say table. When I say table, I say te and bull. There's 2 sounds that have to come out of my mouth to say that word. So it doesn't really matter how the word's written. It's really more about how the word sounds and what my mouth is doing in order to say the word. Cat has 1 syllable. You can hear 1 speech sound came out of my mouth to say that word. Table has 2. Elephant has 3. Funt. You could probably think of lots of other examples yourself, but every word is broken down into syllables. And in America, haiku are usually broken down into 3 lines that have 5, 7, and then 5 syllables. And that looks like this. Here's one from a poet. His name is Ken Nesbitt. It says, winter is coming. Snow will be arriving soon. We should rake the leaves. So let's break that down. Winter is 2 syllables. Sorry about that. Winter. I'm going to hold up my finger so you can count along with me. Winter is 2. Is 3. Coming 4 and 5. So the first line had 5 syllables. The second line, snow will be, that's 3. Arriving is 3 more to make 6. And then soon. So there's 7 in the second line. Last line, we should rake the leaves. So first line 5, last line 5, middle line 7. So if you've studied haiku in school at all, I know when I first learned about haiku, this is what I was taught too, that you always do 5, 7, 5. And I think the reason for that is that in Japanese, there are kind of strong suggestions or rules about how haiku are written, and they, roughly kind of translate into, see, the Japanese language and English, they're very different languages. So the rules that can be applied to how you would write or say a Japanese poem, they don't really fit perfectly with how you would write or say something in English. Japanese speech sounds, they kind of count their speech sounds differently than we do. So their rules for how this works, they don't really fit exactly well with ours. So American poets and teachers kind of decided that a rough, way of trying to match that would be to break it down into 5, 7, and 5. And that's what most of us are taught. But the more that I've read about this and studied about this, I've found that that's really just a suggestion. You don't have to follow that at all. That meteor shower poem does not follow that rule, and it won awards from famous poets. Really, the important things about haiku are that it is usually about the seasons or nature, that it's expressing a moment in time, hopefully beautifully or peacefully. You're trying to say as much as you can in few words, and those are the important things. So in your haiku, if you want to write it with 4 syllables, then 3, then 8, that's totally fine. If you want to write it in 6 and then 7 and then 5, that's fine too. If you would like to write your haiku with like 5, 7, and 5 syllables, that's totally fine. Because again, putting a rule or sort of a barrier on how you write it could help you unlock some creativity that you didn't know was there. Trying to write a haiku that maybe writing it with 5, 7, and 5 makes you cut out some words that you didn't really need to say what you were trying to say. So what we're going to do now is I would like everybody watching to write your own haiku. And here are the steps we're going to go through. First off, pick a memory or a scene in the natural world, or even just you could look outside the window and see what everything looks like outside right now. And you could use that as your inspiration. You could try to remember something from a previous season, like maybe last winter or last fall, something from the summer. I love going swimming in the summer, so I might think about a creek that I like to go swimming in. Try to pick something in the natural world, or maybe an animal that you really like, or something you saw one of your pets do. Pick something in nature or with an animal, and start thinking about what words that brings to mind. In my window here, I just saw some birds fly by. So that makes me think of wings, flapping, words like soar as the bird kind of flies through the air. Behind the birds, I see a blue sky. I see some clouds. Those are other things in the natural world that I could use in my poem. But try to think about, when I look at this natural scene, when I look at the environment outside, or I look at the animals, how do they make me feel? Do they make me feel peaceful? Do they make me feel excited? Try to think about just being in the moment and thinking in that one moment, how does that scene make you feel? And what words could you use to try to describe that? Once you write those down, you can play around with it a little bit. You can move words around. Maybe the first line that you write, maybe it would really belong better at the end. Maybe you want to cut some words out to see if the first time you write a sentence, you might say something like, birds are flapping quickly through the sky. And you're like, that's actually kind of a lot of syllables there. Maybe I could cut that down. How could I cut that same idea into 5 syllables if you want to do the 5-7-5 method? Maybe I say, birds are flapping fast. That's 5. Maybe we want the word are, maybe we could cut that out. Birds flapping quickly. That could be okay for a first line. It lets the reader know that we're talking about an animal out in the natural world. It has some motion in it, like that frog jumping into the pond. So start writing your own haiku. When you're ready, go ahead and put it in the Q&A box and share it. And I'll start reading some of these out loud as you guys put them in there. Oh man, I'm so flattered. Here's one attendee. They said, outstanding teacher, really fun. Very good at explaining things. You are da bomb. There's no name on that one, but thank you, whoever wrote that. I am honored. Thank you. All right. Shanna says that it isn't precise. Yeah, if you're talking about haiku in general, I totally agree. This is a form of poetry that it's really how do you want to communicate about that scene. Some people really like to follow that 5-7-5 rule, but it doesn't have to be that way. When I was kind of studying up and getting ready to do this webinar today, I was really surprised at how different some haiku are. Some had much longer lines than I was used to, and some were very, very short. But a lot of the most famous ones that I could find that apparently are some of the most favorite haiku from over the years, most of them did not follow that 5-7-5 rule. Some of them did, but it's really up to you. All right. All right. One viewer, Joseph, says, what period was the haiku invented in medieval Japan? I'm not sure exactly what period it was invented in, but that would be a really interesting thing to research, trying to find out exactly what time period. I've read some history of Japan and it's really interesting. So I highly suggest you look into that more, but I can't tell you the exact year. Fallon asks, can't you move around the 5-7-5? So it could be like 5-5-7 or 7-5-5 as well. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's the freedom that you have here, is that you can make the syllables a little bit longer or shorter. Another thing about haiku is the more you study about it, you'll find that like a lot of types of writing, there's kind of like more and more ideas the deeper you go. If you wanted to read up on the subject, like find a book about haiku or find a website that talks about haiku, there's a lot more ideas about how you can really get down to like, what is the key essence of writing a haiku? And it's really interesting stuff, but not anything we needed to go over today. But yeah, so for our purposes, writing 5-7-7 or 7-5-5 would be totally fine. All right, here is another haiku that somebody shared. This is from Isis. It says, rain is pounding. Kids are shouting. We all run inside. Oh, I love that. That really gives me like a really nice picture of what's happening. The first line, rain is pounding, 4 syllables. Kids are shouting, 4. We all run inside. So it's 4-4-5. I love the action in that one. I love the picture that it gives. It's really nice. Great. Isha says, crisp leaves are falling. I love that. That's great. One suggestion that we should talk about is that most of the sources that I read and most of the writers agree that haiku do usually have still 3 lines. That is a great start. Would you be able to write 2 more lines to go with that? Nalia also says, sunset on the lake. That's wonderful. I really like the pictures that those give me. Nalia, can you write us 2 more lines with that as the start? Anya says, the pretty bird flew into the little red barn gracefully. I love it. These are really nice. Here we go. Nalia was ahead of me. Oh, I bet I know what happened. They probably wrote the first line and then went to go hit enter or something and it submitted, but there's actually more lines here. Okay, Nalia says, sunset on the lake, like a brilliant yellow road to a sinking ball. Oh, that is really cool. I really like that one. See, I can picture myself standing there at the edge of the lake and the sun's going down. And as it goes behind the water, the reflection is making, like you described here, a road. That's really nice. Good job. Isha says, crisp leaves are falling. The cool breeze blows through my hair. Crickets are chirping. That's really cool. I like that. Milo says, white and cold, fox goes trotting, the snow fell. You guys are doing really well at this. Good job. See, that includes something from the natural world like snow and an animal. And that says a lot to me in just a few words. It's great. Fallon says, trees in the sunshine, wind moves the leaves. Summer heat comes once again. That's really, really nice. Good job, Fallon. All right, another attendee here says, gave me a poem. The words did not rhyme. It was the most beautiful thing ever. That's really nice. I like too how you're mixing it up. That one is more, it sounds like it's more about a conversation. I like it. Another attendee says, in the class I see an amazing man teaching me. Soon everybody is a prodigy. That one rhymes too. Well done. All right, Fallon put another one here. This one, oh, I like this. Fallon says, they came up with this last week. Okay, awesome. Looks like they came up with this one already. This one has several parts to it. Here we go. Golden leaves shall fall. Autumn surely ends. Then time changes once again. Containing new life, the child shows their spirit. Spring begins anew. Winter is brought to a close with shuddering sighs, and life passes on. That's really nice. So that one is a series of 3 sets of 3 lines. That's really cool. Yeah, when I was researching more for this webinar, I found that, yeah, some of the famous haiku poets would do groups of 3 lines. Like they might do 2 sets of 3 lines for a longer haiku. So your set of 3 groups of 3 lines. Wonderful. I really like that one. All right. This attendee, this message almost, I can't tell if this is just a message or a haiku talking about haikus. It could be either one, so I'm gonna read it. It says, someone gave me a haiku. He made 2 of the lines rhyme and it sounded great. So if that is just a message, that's awesome. If that's also a haiku by itself, then wonderful. All right, Ariana says, fireflies flicker, grass tickles our toes, a slight breeze blows. Wow, okay, so our webinar here is already full of poets because you guys are amazing. That one, I like the repeating letters and sounds. I like how it says fireflies flicker and how it says tickles our toes, a slight breeze blows. It's really nice. It's one of the things that can really make something sound nice or fun is when you repeat the letters like that. So, and that one has some rhyming too. So great job. Maya says, a scarlet red leaf falling slowly, giving way to the treacherous winter. That is really awesome. I like how you use the word treacherous winter because it really like communicates a lot in one word. Like this writer really feels that the winter is betraying. It's got treachery. Maybe it's because we love the summer and the fall so much that the winter coming feels like almost like that the winter's betrayed us. That's great. Oh, Lorna, thank you. Thank you for that message there. I really like having you in the webinars too. Thanks. All right, let's see. Ron Beer says, white dogwood flower, a cool breeze around the air, birds nest in the trees. That's really nice. I went to Yosemite National Park once, years ago, and they have lots and lots of dogwood flowers there. So your poem there, it really brings an image to my mind right away. That's one of the really cool things about writing and poetry is when you write it, it's like you probably have an image in your mind when you wrote that, and you don't even know the sort of like memories or ideas or pictures that it might bring up in your readers. But for me, it's really cool that you wrote about something that maybe you saw or you were thinking about, and I was able to get something really cool from it all this distance away. So good job, Ron Beer. All right. All right, Kesma says, I need to de-stress. My house is a mess. I can use some help. That is that's a poem that we can all have a lot of understanding of right now, the world, how it is. Good job. Lorna says, sun is shining. We're all working. We all need a break. Oh, that's really good. I definitely get a mental picture from that. All right, Ariana says, furry red fox runs, running here and running there. She becomes a blur. Run, little fox, run, through the trees and the leaves. Be wild and free, little fox. I like that one. That one is a group of 2 sets of 3 lines. Really good. It's got the natural world in there. It has an animal. It's great. Nalia says, the car zooming by the wind hits me, boom, I fall. Yeah, so that's great. That's, you know, usually I think that the traditional poets would say, a car, you can't have a car in a haiku. That's not part of the natural world. But like we said, you get to break all the rules if you want to. So maybe a car is part of our natural world these days. All right, another attendee says, I love to read books. Please leave me to read my book. Thank you, finally. Great job. Hey, is that a 575? Let's see. I love to read books. Please leave me to read my book. Thank you, finally. So that one's following the 575 rule. Good job. Let's see. Oh, some people say some people, they accidentally hit enter and they put their thing in before it's done. Don't worry. I usually just skip over those because I know you guys plan to write more. No worries. You guys are too kind. This one says, Corey is very cool. He is amazing and true. No doubt a great teacher. Thank you. That one's from an anonymous viewer, but thank you very much. I'm very honored. Madeline says, a sheep's sudden bleat pierces the cold, clear morning. Thunder rumbles overhead. Wow, I really like that one. That's awesome. Because at the beginning, a sheep bleating, it almost sounds like it's worried. Bleating. And then you hear thunder rumble, like a storm's coming or something. But the animal was making that sound before it heard the thunder. To my mind, that it makes a whole scene. There's like a whole story being told there in very few words. So great job, Madeline. Fallon's earlier when he says that his 3 lines, 3 sets of 3 lines were 3 separate haikus. But I thought they all worked really well together too. So great job. Yeah, they could be, it's almost like you can link them together to make a longer one, or you could just write sets of, haiku where they're different. But I've seen sometimes different haiku that all kind of have like a similar theme. Like in that one, I believe it was the one I saw earlier where Fallon's We're All About the Seasons. Or, you know, you could do something really cool. Like you could write, you know, multiple haiku about a pond, but each one is in a different season. So maybe you write about it in spring, and then, you know, it's about all the plants starting to grow, and then one about summer and people go swimming, and then in fall the leaves are falling onto it, and then in winter it's frozen over. It could be really fun to write a series of, you know, of poems about the same subject, but showing maybe the passage of time. Each one's a little moment, but overall we get like a whole story from it. You guys are writing so many amazing poems in here. I don't think I'm going to be able to get to all of them before the time runs up. But I just want you to all know I'm going to read every single one of these before I go today, even though we'll have to end off the webinar because you guys are doing awesome. And I really like reading these. Olivia says, flowers blowing, fireflies showing, sunset glowing. That's really nice. Good job. Lorna has a poem in here. I think we read this one already, but it's in here again. So I'm going to read it one more time just in case we missed it. But Lorna says, sun is shining. We're all working. We all need a break. That's really nice. Yeah, I get the picture from that of like it's the sun's shining outside, but we're inside working or studying, and we'd really like to get out there. Definitely. Ashi says, grass drenched, snow is gone. Sun melts into horizon. Birds swoop in loops in Cambridge skies. Very nice. I really like that one. One person asks, is this a roller coaster in the background? No, in this picture, this is a bridge over a pond. So the picture here is of a nice pond, and there's a bridge going across here. Yeah, not a roller coaster. That would probably be a different type of poetry if we had a roller coaster in the background. All right, we have time for just a few more. Birds are singing, wind is whispering, beckoning me to the woods. That's from Mackenzie. That's a great job. What else do we have here? Okay, Maya says, it has been dark and gloomy. A little stream of sun breaks through. The animals finally come out. I like that. That's cool. Nalia says, the trees, the dirt, the sun, the sky. I love it all the nature. That's really cool. All right. Okay, just time for a couple more. Here we go. Isha says, the gentle clouds pass. They are as soft as whipped cream. I wake from my dream. Really cool. Lorna says, a black streak passes. Surely it's my cat. She must go back inside. Definitely. Sounds like she got out. Very good job. Milo says, house is settling. We are sleeping, dreaming dreams. Yeah, that's a really nice image there with very few words. Good job. All right. This attendee, it looks like they've linked together 4 sets of 3 lines, and it looks like they definitely have a theme. Here we go. Apples are dark red, yet somehow yellow and green. Why must this be? Bananas are yellow, but green at the tips. Why is this? Tomatoes are shiny red and green at the end. Why are they fruit? Now my story is told, even though I told not about pears. But you should rather think about pears. That's awesome. I like that you picked a theme and you stuck it through all 4 of those. Fruit and colors. It's just a simple moment in time looking at probably a bowl of fruit on a counter, but there's a tomato in there. Why is there a tomato with the rest of the fruit? Very, very cool. Well, you guys have a lot more poems in here. I wish I had time to read them all, but we have to end off. Thank you for writing haiku with me today. It's been an honor to read all of them. Tomorrow, we're going to be talking about another type of poetry called an acrostic. And an acrostic, really simply, is the simplest version is that you write a word down one side of the page, and each letter of it, you write things out. So that's another fun way to write about something. I hope you'll all be back tomorrow so that we can write more poems together. You guys have really impressed me with your writing today. So I hope I get to read more of yours tomorrow. Thank you guys for being here, and we will see you back next time.